Hello and welcome to Onesies, a podcast of one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name's Emily.
And we are discussing Joe's Life, a 1993 family saga starring Peter Onorati, Mary Page Keller, and convicted rapist
Danny Masterson.
Yep. Okay. Someday you're just going to let me forget his name. It'll be
Never.
Convicted rapist Ashton Kutcher's best friend who he stole the feds, or we need to.
Well, maybe after he's sentenced, I'll stop thinking about it all the time.
But yes, so we are on episode
8.
8. Oh, there are only two
more left. We can do it. I need to send you a present.
We are missing the Halloween episode, which I imagine is because, well, okay.
Mary Page Keller dresses like a sexy French maid or something.
No, I bet there's blackface.
Oh, geez.
I bet there's blackface.
I doubt it.
There's some kind of hyphen face. There, 1993. The joke would be that it's too dated, that it's inappropriate, but I can see it. This show sucks. I can see it. Anyway.
Yeah. This episode, however, called Dear Grandpa, it wasn't very bad.
It wasn't very bad because George Coe can act, even in complete shit.
Yeah,
he is a professional man.
Yeah, he was good. And, you had mentioned last week that he was on SNL, and I Googled, and he looked familiar. So he was a cast member, but like Mike O'Donoghue was uncredited for most of the first season. I think except for like one episode. So he was on regularly and he was in the writer's room, but he wasn't an official cast member for most of the first season, which is why the name didn't sound familiar.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know Mike O'Donoghue, but I didn't know him. But he looks real familiar, so I'm sure I've seen it in a million
things.
Yeah,
he's played. I'm sure he's played bad dads on dramas. Like I can see him on. He's somebody's bad dad on L.A. Law or something.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it's not a good. I mean, we'll get to it. But yeah, so George Coe, FTW, which does not mean for the win.
What does it mean?
It means fuck the world.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, everyone. I didn't actually know that it had a new meaning. So every time I've used it, I have used it as like this defiant, it's got to be.
Is it new? I didn't know that fuck the world was it. I always thought it was for the win, like forever. Like hashtag Tiger Blood, like that long ago.
This is the 90s. So Mickey Rourke made a movie called Fuck the World where he was a rodeo star down on his luck. I think. I haven't seen it, even though I have wanted to, because it is one of the 3 films he wrote for himself. Okay. So
we open in the living room, and Joe is seemingly fixing the family's VCR. At first I was like, how in the hell is he fixing a VCR? And then I was like, oh, right. He was an airplane mechanic. So he at least has some kind of technical skill. I don't know if that translates to VCRs, but whatever. We'll play along. Even more unbelievable is that his 3 children are standing around watching it. Even when you get to the point where it's clear that they want him to just buy a new VCR, it's still pretty unbelievable that they'd all just be sitting around watching him fix this VCR, because it's boring. I don't know. Whatever. I just wrote "eat it" and an exclamation point. Yeah, and it took me a minute to remember what it was. But he says, "Oh, you're right. I can't fix it. Looks like we need a new VCR." And then he's like, "Psych. Let's see if this works." And they put a tape in, and all the kids are chanting, "Eat it, eat it, eat it," and it does not eat it.
Presumably. We don't know if it even finishes rewinding the tape, however.
Yeah.
Pro tip, VCR tape rewinder were the
I remember that, yeah.
Save your VCR stuff because VCRs had speed limits on how fast they could rewind because they didn't want to like once they learned it would damage it, they slowed them down.
Right. And in this scene, the kids list all of the ways that the VCR doesn't work, and one of them is that it rewinds too slowly.
And many of those issues are like circuit board things that Joe could not fix. And
Right.
This will come up throughout the episode that, you set the channel. The VCR basically has the wrong internal logic for how it understands the channel inputs. It doesn't matter because it's not plugged into any AV either. So
right.
Moving on. Yes.
Right.
Joe fixes the VCR, but we are setting up subplot B or A probably.
So
there's
no
subplot for Sandy this episode.
A plot is dad. I would say B plot is the VCR.
Yeah.
And then the C plot is the restaurant.
And
business.
Then D plot is rapist Danny Masterson, subplot of the D plot. These are incredibly, I feel like outlining a class on outlining or the narrative structure of shitty sitcoms is actually a fascinating but completely worthless pursuit. You could write your doctorate on how poorly fucking laid out these things are.
Well, and especially with this show, I've said it from the beginning, when you have so many characters and they each have to have their own little moment and you have 4 subplots, it just, nothing is ever really good.
No. And
not all sitcoms are like that.
No. I mean, especially not. So this is 93 and this is a sitcom that is not, one of the conceits isn't that it's a single location.
Mm-hmm.
So like the single location sitcom, I don't think ABC did any of those that ever like were a thing, but like, it didn't start with The Office. It started with like Cheers and Wings and Night Court and just places where all of and LA Law not LA Law sort of, because they were always at work or in the courtrooms. But even like Law and Order, you're like one of 4 places, and that 4th place is on location, but those other 3 places are very stable.
Right.
And so just the way the stories work when you're trying to pretend you go to the restaurant and that's not a set location because they've never shown us the interior of the restaurant, so we can't actually have
No,
scenes.
they did. The birthday party. Sandy's birthday
party.
That's
right. Then why the hell? Well, we also have a Dracula the series level time problem on the last day where the kids apparently took off from, everybody went. Yes, because Grandpa said he was having lunch with her. Mm-hmm. They all went, the entire family took off to go have lunch with Grandpa on his last day from school, and we missed all of the logistics of that. Okay, but speaking of Grandpa, Joe says, no more spending money on things we don't need except you guys. Boom.
Bada bing.
You suck, kids. Okay, so this was interesting. Joe goes into the kitchen where Sandy is on the phone and she's stirring pasta sauce because Joe's
They're an Italian family, yes.
They're a mixed marriage, though, because I think she was raised Protestant. We'll get to the wasp later. But speaking of sitcom tropes, so she's on the phone with her mom, who's telling her that she's getting fucking married or remarried, whatever. But what was interesting is Joe takes over to check stirring the sauce. And I'm like, so is Sandy watching it for Joe, or is Joe checking up on Sandy? Joe is checking up on Sandy. This entire episode is about Sandy proving her loyalty to her new owner over her old owner. It's fucking wild once you're just like, wow, it's insidious.
Yeah, I didn't think it, I mean, yes, it was pretty, well, we'll get into it when we get to it.
Yes, but first we've got Scotty Jean coming in, who still, I discovered at the end of the episode, has his fucking rat tail.
I made that same observation, and I thought it is 100% that they wrote that first episode, that first little thing, because the kid refused to cut off his rat tail. Like, the actor refused. He was throwing a fit, and they couldn't just recast him with some other kid. And maybe he's a producer's kid or something. I have no idea. But he insisted on keeping the rat tail, so they worked the rat tail into the first episode's storyline.
But you
to explain it. But it's the 90s. You don't have to explain a kid having a rat tail in the 90s.
Shoot it very often, so you forget about it because the kids aren't actually. This is the most the kids have been in the episodes for a while.
Yeah.
And it's because mom doesn't actually have a plot. And Barb disappears inexplicably from the plot she was running. Okay, anyway. Again, the outlining class. So why doesn't Scotty Jean comes in and he's like, what happened to my real grandpa? Not this new guy. Why doesn't he ever visit anymore? And then Joe explains that Grandpa Martin travels the world and he loves you very much, but he's just too busy. And then Scotty Jean's like, okay, runs off, kind of a pin in that. And Mom, Sandy's like, he called you, it's been 3 years since we've seen you, and he called you a loser. So we're never going to talk to him again, and he'll never see his grandkids again.
Yeah. So again, I was a little disappointed that that's what the quote unquote estranged father thing meant.
But it's still not.
And it doesn't.
It's still worse than that. Like, it's still even lower stakes than that. This episode has absolutely no stakes.
Yeah.
This episode is when the discomfort of when you purchase your wife from her family, you don't spend more than 2 days with your in-laws because you've just bought her for a
goose.
yak.
Yeah.
And so that's all it is about, is that like Joe and his father-in-law can't talk about anything, and so they're weird around each other, and so it's great anyway. But George Coe's good, so it's also weird. It's like incredible.
It's like, I'm not supposed to like this guy, but I like this guy.
You have to, because like everything else is, because he's not a villain. Like, he's trying to.
Well, we'll talk about it when he shows up.
Okay, but first, here's where we have something that I was like, oh, is this episode going to have occasionally well-written jokes, or not well-written, but like potentially funny jokes that just can't deliver on? Paulie walks through and is like, I'm going to go wait for the VCR to rewind. It's going to be 30 years. And in the middle of this joke, that was the funnier part. Like, that's like a Bart Simpson moment, right? Like, it's not good in this context, but it's like the least shitty thing they've given this kid to do in a while. And at least it could be like the beginning of a commercial, like your sizzle reel for your commercial work.
They also could have been like, hey, your character is scientifically capable. Why don't you like figure out a way to fix this thing? I mean, again, if it's a motherboard issue, that's another story, but you could like develop this character a little bit more. He's going to get a manual, get a book from the library about how to fix computers, and then fix the fucking VCR instead of sitting there bitching the whole time. Like, they treat the kids pretty poorly in this, but
you think, stop confusing this with a good show like Home Improvement. Okay, so, but in the middle of that, Joe had been talking about like, how come you defend me to your father? And Sandy's like, oh, I won't do that anymore. And so then Paulie yells at him like that, and Joe's like, oh, why didn't you protect me from Paulie talking to me like that? So weird. Weirdness. Okay, opening titles.
Yes.
Commercials. I have notes on one commercial in a bit that's just going to be a punchline. But we start with Frank, the mean old guy, coming in, bitching about how people keep coming in.
There's too many people here.
There's a sniper on the roof. Stan's getting calls about getting reservations. And it's like he's in bed dreaming with Barb's elbow in his eye. Waka waka.
Hate your wife. Hate your kids.
Yep.
Hate your customers.
really hate your customers. It's great. Though old guy does not make fun of his wife this episode.
Nope.
Straight up, no spoilers. Okay. Joe's like, it's my food. It's because I'm cooking here full time, or I'm invested in cooking here now, as opposed to when I was doing fill in cooking here for the months before the pilot, and I guess doing a half assed job.
Yeah.
But we actually have no idea. Joe has not had a I take my cooking more seriously arc
No.
yet. I noticed the writers are the two ladies who wrote that one episode that really sucked a couple episodes ago.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I was
Maybe they took a
terrified.
class.
Or they were like, we'll take the shitty one if we can have the one with George Coe in it. And everybody's like, hey, nobody's gonna ever watch any reels of this except ones with George Coe. So yeah, let's fucking run. So Ray's like, hey, Stan, if you're doing so well, Ray's begins with Ray. Zoinks.
Yeah, I thought that was a bad joke, but probably one of the best. There was a moment I actually laughed, wasn't it? Yes, there was a moment I actually laughed.
But then Leo comes in and he's got his hands full and he asks for help and everybody turns their back on him, Stan leaving the room.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, it's like the Omen 5 or whatever here. Like Stan knows what's up.
And then Barb comes in.
Yes.
And she said, I think I figured out the problem, even though she hasn't been listening. She hasn't been in the room, so she hasn't been able to hear. But she comes in, Deus ex machina, right? I think I know what the problem is. We've got a good review in the newspaper. And she starts to read it, and Joe encourages her to skip to the part about the food. And there are a couple almost funny things. Again, when we're talking about treating your customers poorly, you're greeted by a friendly hostess. And she's like, when have I ever been friendly?
Right.
And Stan, I think Stan is like, yes, I don't remember being courteous.
Yeah.
And Stan is like, oh, well, remember that. And then he describes a couple who have various handicaps. He's like, weren't you courteous to them? And she's like, no. So, almost funny, except she's a terrible person.
This should just be a Faulty Towers remake about the two of them.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
And then, the singing busboy, the singing waiter, the singing busboy,
yep.
The attentive waiter, and they're all standing in the room listening to this going, that's not me. But Leo hears about the singing waiter and he grabs the newspaper. He's like, oh, that's baloney. And he's reading it and he's like, oh, he got tipped. He's like, maybe we've got an idea here. Maybe I can make some extra money by singing, which put a pin in that.
Yes, but put a big, long, very extended pin in that. Because again, this fucking show. But it's also the wrong restaurant.
Yes.
Like Joe at some point grabs the paper from Barb and it's like,
no, because the chef Mario goes out with the busboy to sing, and he says, Mario's the chef at Janelli's, not Gennaro's.
Nope.
So the realization hits that they actually put the name on they named the wrong restaurant in their review, and everybody's deflated.
And then Ray's like, why do we have to tell?
Yes.
Stan's
Paper. Yeah. Because Joe becomes the moral compass.
Yes. And
Stan's like, we'll just leave it. We'll just deal with it. Da, 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 da. And Joe's like, no, it's wrong.
It's unethical.
It's unethical. Yes.
Unethical, Emily. It's our new slogan.
And then commercial break.
Yeah. Okay.
Really dumb.
So what? Oh, this is nothing. This is about Scotty Jean losing at soccer. Soccer never comes back or matters. But we do get to have Sandy playing soccer mom, bitching about how Joe's like, oh no, you guys weren't bad. You guys were great. And as soon as they get out of Scotty Jean's out of the room, Sandy's like, those kids suck. This team sucks. It's all that fucking coaches. The moron coach should be shot.
He should be shot. I was like, holy shit. Like, this is a little much.
Now,
and then the joke is that he's a father so-and-so, so he's a priest. Does that mean the kids go to a Catholic school?
yes, they're Catholic. Okay. That is what this establishes is that even though we've seen their school and no, so they're Catholic, but they don't go to a Catholic school.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a Catholic school would let a teacher, even if they let lay people teach, wear a skirt that short.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't wearing a uniform when he was there.
They they go to public school because Andy's Protestant.
But a priest,
Catholic school. Either.
That's true. But a priest is the soccer coach.
Yes.
And he baptized the children.
Yes. Hashtag RIP
Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. Or I don't know what her new name is. I apologize for that.
Shit. Emily's gonna fix this.
Edit. I'm writing it down. This is my new thing, and I have about the right time.
Have Jason record in the correct name. Make him do a cameo.
I will.
Okay. Okay.
I'll try.
So yeah, I mean, really, just sadness of yes, maybe the priest should have been shot, but then there's a ring at the doorbell.
This is the part that I laughed.
What the fuck is going on?
What do you mean?
Well, no, because Joe runs through the house, leaping over the couch like he's Tom Cruise to intercept Scotty Jean answering the door. And then he's like, now you get it, Scotty Jean.
So I thought it was funny. I thought it was a cute moment. Scotty Jean is running down the stairs going, I'll get it, 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 I'll get it. And Joe intercepts him, like you said, picks him up, swings him around, goes to answer the door, and he's like, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. You can get it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute.
He's being nice to the kid. What is this show? What is this show? I'm not watching the same show. We just broke the universe. You don't know.
Take it.
You don't know it. Spider-Man references. Tobey Maguire just showed up next to Tom Holland or whatever. Like, what are we watching here?
I thought it was cute. It was the one time.
Yes, I don't understand. I'm not disagreeing. Like, Peter Onorati was like, I'll only do it to show up George Coe. And they were like, you still didn't show up George Coe.
I'll only do it because this is the only kid who's smaller than me.
There is that too. Also, Peter Onorati's outfit in this scene is something. He's in his very high jeans. And that's kind of what I realized is Peter Onorati's a guy who's still got his 1940s waist. Like,
I told you it's like Bruce McCullough in Kids in the Hall in the 90s.
Yeah. So then he's like got a fucking sweatery thing, and it's like tucked in, and it's just a lot, and it's very early 90s.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. You want to bitch about grunge. Thank goodness people started wearing untucked shirts. Thank goodness. Okay. So then it's Grandpa Martin.
Joe is shocked. Sandy's in the background. She's shocked.
Scotty Jean is
thrilled.
And they have a big reunion thing where there's banter between George Coe and the kids. And I started going, wait, is he not going to be terrible? I'm confused.
The other kids come running down the stairs. Yeah. Oh, he's like, oh, who is this? Is this Amy? Mm-hmm. When he hugs, it was so
Scotty
cute.
Jean.
Yeah, when he hugs Scott.
Scotty Jean. Who's this? Isn't it Little Miss New Jersey?
Oh, it was so sweet.
And then
I have daddy issues. I have daddy issues, so I love any scene where a father figure is like sweet to their kids.
So, and then they're like, how did you fucking get here? Why did you come here? And it's like, I got an invitation from Scott. And I decided it's been quite long enough, so I take him up on his generous offer, and then he shows them the letter, and supposedly it says, sleep over my house.
So Scott can only write like a caveman speaks.
However, he can apparently address very, very, well, I mean, not like he didn't need to put a return address on it, but he
He knows the format.
and he knows where
He
to
put a
find the
stamp on it.
grandpa's address.
Mm-hmm.
Like they make fun of Scotty Jean being an idiot a lot, but he's doesn't seem that stupid.
Yeah.
Um, so then, speaking of which, they'll make a they missed a joke here too. Where Scotty Jean's being all cloying and he's like, Grandpa can sweep in my room, Kay. And Grandpa looks at Mom and Dad and goes, Kay.
Yeah, that was
And
funny.
and Sandy's like, all right. And I was like, you're not even gonna do the K. Like that's a real obvious like thing you could do.
A little
But she doesn't.
tag.
Mary Page Keller doesn't have sarcasm in her repertoire. So it's
No.
like it's very strange when you think about it, considering the rest of the show is incredibly and poorly sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So the mom and dad go into the kitchen while grandpa's getting out the other presents for the kids. Joe says it's unbelievable that Scott can write. So that was, following up on that. But then we're going to talk about how now this is very important once we find out what's been going on in the family. Sandy says he's doing what he's always done. He's making up with me on his terms. He's being manipulative and selfish. How can he do this after the way he treated you?
Yes.
And what to even say to him. And Grandpa has come in and he says, how about, hi, Dad, missed you awful. There's no way I can stay mad at you. And I'm like, what did he say to Joe? This is terrible. This is really manipulative. And then they talk about how he didn't. Sandy says, you left this family by saying those things to my husband. And
you made that choice. Yeah.
When you made him that insulting job offer. What? To be a sales director at your global real estate company. You fucker.
Yeah.
To which he then says, well, Joe was working on the assembly line, but he loved that job.
So there's this whole thing. Also, the setup to this is that three of them are in the kitchen having this argument, but it's really just Sandy and her father. And they're kind of like bickering back and forth about the situation. And Joe stops and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Also kind of funny. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why don't we talk about this guy as if he's sitting in the room with you? Right. And it's like, it doesn't seem like Joe is as upset about the situation as Sandy is.
Exactly.
So in my mind, it means there's something deeper. Like this was just the catalyst for the ending of the relationship, but there was a pattern of behavior in the past that made Sandy angry because Joe doesn't seem to care as much. A little bit, but not as much.
We also never find out why Grandpa and Grandma broke up.
Yeah.
But it's implied that that was not always a permanent condition either. So when they say we haven't seen him in 3 years, I assumed it was because he walked out on Grandma. But no, it's that he offered Joe a better job than Joe currently had, and Joe said no.
And now, Sandy found it insulting.
And Sandy found it insulting, to which my note is, it's about how women need to put loyalty to their new owner over loyalty to their previous owner performatively and enthusiastically.
Yeah.
So Joe knows that she's his now. She's not, that yak was enough to buy her away.
Yeah.
To which Grandpa says, okay, if you don't want to see me, okay, but can I at least see my grandkids? And she's like, fine, if you apologize to Joe. And he goes, Joseph? And then Sandy goes, he prefers Joe. You know that. And we have this weird scene where Joe goes, I don't mind. He can call me Joseph.
Yeah.
And to which Sandy yells, "Yes, you do mind." So we will have a joke about how Joe needs to check in with his emotions with Sandy to see what he's experiencing.
Yeah.
So Grandpa then says, "I'm sorry I tried to make your life easier by offering you a job, and I'm sorry if any of that offended you."
So
And
here's where we get this weird thing where the dad is being kind of condescending to Joe, but only kind of.
yeah,
I'm
this
really
is what the whole
confused.
thing is it's like Grandpa will say something like, "Hey, it's really shitty you lost your job," and Joe will be like, "Why the
I
fuck?"
didn't lose the job. I got laid off or something. And it's
And
like,
he's like, "Yeah, I know, man, but like you're not in work, you're not working right now. That situation sucks, right?" And it's like,
yeah,
"You asshole."
it's so weird.
It's because they never hung out after Joe bought Sandy. God. Okay.
But
So
it's also just not something to get up in
no,
arms about.
there's no fucking drama.
There's no
There's
drama
none.
here. They're manufacturing it.
And they're failing.
And
Like they it's just like
it's
they
real
can't
weird.
like Peter Honorati is so fucking checked out in this shit. He's like second to last season Dan on fucking Roseanne or something. Like he's like, I was just in Barton Fink, man. Like I got to go. I'm
It's all
John
really
Goodman.
weird. And
It's
we see more of it as the
yeah,
episode goes on, where he's just making kind of general statements like, I can't even think of any off the top of my head. And it's interpreted as being an insult. Now, maybe he is being insulting, but we don't know this character. We don't know this guy. We don't know what the actual problem was. If Sandy was like, you used to say this to me when I was a teenager, you used to tell me I needed to go outside and exercise or else I was going to get fat, that would be different. But we don't have any of that.
Maybe it's about the staring game. Maybe that's what
Maybe it's about the staring game.
Okay.
But they part ways and they agree that he's going to hang out with the kids and the adults are going to be just separate. The grandpa's going to hang out with the kids and the parents are just going to be like keep living their lives.
So then Sandy leaves them in the kitchen, Joe and Grandpa, and they're trying to make conversation. And so Grandpa's like, "I raised a tough cookie there, huh?" And it's like, "Yep." And I was like, "Really? We think Sandy's a tough cookie. In what universe has there been any tough cooking from Sandy, even on an ABC sitcom?"
Yeah.
Has she grounded a kid? Like, there's been no tough cooking. So then Grandpa says, "Well, Joe, I hear you're slinging hash these days." And Joe's
Which is
like, "You
insulting.
motherfucker. You
Which
motherfucker."
Which is a little bit insulting. And he has to clarify that I am a partner in this family business, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Then we cut to commercials after Grandpa says, "Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of, Joe."
Yes.
Um,
Which again is insulting.
Leaving out you people always were hard workers.
Oh.
But I mean, that does come up later. Like it's practically a thing. Oh God, it's so waspy in the conclusion. It's so great. It's such a piece of shit. But we've got the commercials, and here's my note for the commercials. I wish we were watching Family Matters. Damn it, Emily. Oh, yeah. Did you see the Family Matters that was on?
I did.
They were dancing, Emily. They had a dance
Laura
routine.
was trying to learn how to be a boy with Steve Urkel. It was so silly. It was so silly.
So silly. And instead, we're watching this fucking show. God. What's it like to watch a show where the kids are likable and not terrible?
Well, Steve Urkel wasn't supposed to be like the focus of the show.
I know.
Okay.
Oh God. Okay. Cut to Grandpa and Scott out back playing the staring game.
Yeah.
Now, what I found interesting about this is I think it's the first time we've seen this part of the set where we've got
I don't remember a table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the backyard exterior, and you can see into either the actual laundry room or like part of the laundry room.
This wasn't where the telescope was?
The telescope, I feel like, was outside the back door, and we were looking on to the kitchen.
Hmm.
It's possible they had a whole like outside set for this, like a la Home Improvement,
Hmm.
and didn't use it, which is really fucking stupid, but it's also Joe's life. Okay, so then we get this thing where Grandpa makes a face to win the game, and then they're playing for money. So I'm like, oh, is Grandpa teaching him to gamble? Is that why they hate this fucking guy?
Scotty
No.
calls him a cheater for making the face, and so Grandpa gives him $1, and then
Yeah.
they play again.
And Grandpa lets him win.
Yeah.
And so Scotty's got $2 to go buy candy with.
And at this point, Sandy's watching, and
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, this is so cute. He's gonna do the thing." And Joe's like, "Oh, I can't wait to watch him do the thing." And then he does the
Yeah.
thing, and you realize it's just like pulling a funny face.
Yeah.
And but Sandy seems to be really enjoying watching her father
Mm-hmm.
bond with Scott.
He's been there a couple days. Things are going great with the kids.
Yeah.
She comes to say that she's off to work. Says, "You never let me win the staring game." And he says, "Well, I wish I'd done a better job being a dad to you, Sandy. I
Yeah.
regret that I wasn't a better dad because I see how great you are with these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of you, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Fuck you, man. Fuck you."
I want to hate you so much.
Oh,
And
just
I
want to
want the
hate you.
audience to hate you too. Why are you
We
so
just all
charming?
hate you, George Coe. I'm off to work. What are you going to do all day? He's going to sit around and wait for the kids to come home. Okay, it's 1993, man. Like, that's some of the stuff I'm like, you're just not you didn't have a phone. We're not talking about you're gonna run out of battery on your phone playing Contra on your flip phone or whatever in like 20 minutes, and then you've got another 6.5 hours by yourself in your daughter's house. He's fucking searching the house. He's fucking God knows what he's doing in that house. Okay. But no, he's not. He's because this is a terribly written show and he has nothing going on. He's sitting staring at a wall like a psychopath,
Yep.
waiting for the kids to come home.
Yeah.
And he looks sad about it. He's like, I'll be all by myself watching the leaves fall, which baller, if you can like get that chill to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Very, very centered Zen
Mhm.
place to be
Very
in.
Zen place. That's why they hate him. He's a Buddhist. Um, I mean, I don't know. White guy Buddhist in 93, probably pretty obnoxious. Okay, so what if we had lunch together today, Dad? Oh, that'd be great, honey. We've bonded. Okay, mom's out. Uh, cheek kiss for Dad, kissy for Joe. She's off to work. Grandpa got Amy a new jacket.
Yes.
The
Oh boy, that jacket. Oh.
it is it cultural appropriation? It started from a place of cultural appropriation, but is it cultural appropriation in that format?
I would say so. I would
Okay.
say so. It's the 90s was very much a 70s kind of new 70s era where people were wearing bell bottoms, and her jacket is like a I don't know, like a buckskin with fringe.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Holy cow.
Thank you for the new jacket, Grandpa. It's going to make my friends so jealous they'll need therapy.
Yeah. Which Grandpa thinks is great.
Yeah. Okay, so if it really makes you happy buying us presents, Grandpa, why don't you go to the fucking mall and get us VCRs? They're on sale. Snap. Joe does not like hearing that. No, we don't need that. There's a slightly funny thing where obviously Joe does not want his better off than him grandpa buying his kids a present, right?
Yes.
Like
this is a matter of honor.
It's a matter of honor and the correct pecking order in the patriarchy. They're forgetting who they belong to at this point.
Yeah.
They're not showing enough reverence to the patriarch, the correct patriarch.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a slightly funny thing where Paulie's like, Dad, you don't seem to understand. He's going to buy us a new VCR. Let me talk to you over here and explain what's going on here.
Yeah.
There's no downside.
Yeah.
There will be a downside, but it's not the one any of us know at this point because it's Joe's life, and we still.
I was surprised that George Coe came in after the first commercial break. I'll be honest.
He should be coming
instead
in
of
right
3/4 of the way through. Yeah,
right now he should be coming in. No, it's about the paper suing somebody slips off screen at the restaurant and sues them. That's where the plot starts. Okay. So Joe's like, no, we don't need to go anywhere, Polly. No, you're not getting us a VCR, Martin. And he's like, oh, I've seen that old dinosaur in there. What does it run on? Kerosene? And then he's like, it's fine, Martin. All you gotta do is set it to channel 3, and then you set the cable box channel 7. I'm like, oh, you guys have cable. So 93 cable would have been running them $90 a month in $93. Like, cable's fucking expensive. Like, and they're taping shit off a cable. Like, no judgment. Like, that was one of my issues as a person.
If they're so short on money that they're not spending it on anything that they don't need, then why do they have cable? Right? Yeah.
Drop Cinemax After Dark or whatever, right? Like,
no, that's what Polly's taping. So
that's true. I expected that joke. I did too. Joke. Yes.
And also there's no reference back to when the cable was broken last episode and they had to wait.
Ordering it in the first place last episode, or was it broken?
I don't know.
So Grandpa's not going to take no for an answer. Joe says, let's go, kids. And then Polly, as they're leaving through the laundry room part of the set, Grandpa, great. And Joe's like, oh yeah, sure, he's great, in a condescending, irritating, some other C word kind of way. Not that C word, but like, I forgot, I didn't write it. That'd be amazing. That's why Joe's life went off the air.
That's why Disney decided they were doing a public service by buying ABC so they wouldn't use the C word.
Wow. Okay. So here I am expecting Joe to come back home because he's dropping his fucking kids off at 7:30 in the morning or whatever time school starts, to come back home and have it out with Gramps. Nope. We cut to the restaurant where presumably the only way this makes sense in the timeline logic of the show, using my experience from Dracula the series, is they're there for lunch. This is Grandpa and Mom's lunch.
Yeah.
They have pulled the kids out of school to have lunch at the restaurant.
But also, isn't it Grandpa's last day in town?
It's Grandpa's last day, and then that night, it's also Grandpa's last day.
Right. Oh, I better go. I'm going to miss my flight, whatever it is.
Yes.
It's very weird. So maybe they just pulled the kids out of school because it's Grandpa's last day.
It's not. It's dinner, and they fucking didn't.
And they just did it.
It's a piece of shit show with that bad of, continuity. Okay. So...
To be fair, they probably didn't expect anybody to think about it this deeply.
I'm sorry, they're fucking adults. So whatever the Willy Wonka guy said about making movies, you don't make movies for kids, you make movies for whatever or something. It's fine. Damn. You're ruining the show right now, Emily. What is the point of our show?
That was really deep and insightful, Andrew.
Except to overanalyze fucking terrible television. Like,
no, I'm just trying to explain that. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. In 1993, they probably didn't expect.
They didn't know how to write in 1993. I mean, obviously solidarity with SAG, but. Not SAG, yes, SAG, but also WGA, right?
Yeah.
But still, doesn't mean they were good at writing.
Are you criticizing female writers, Andrew?
Hashtag feminism. Yes, Emily, I can, because I am a male feminist. Oh, golly. Okay, come on. Hold on. Let's see. Our tangents this time are just... Okay, so... Ray's like, don't you want to go hang out with your family? He's like, why the fuck would I want to hang out with my family? It's just my father-in-law making me feel like shit because he's got more money than I have. His kids love him. My kids love him more than they love me.
Because they buy him, because he buys
Because he buys
stuff.
them things. And I would rather just stand back here getting hot grease speckled on my face. It is a break from my life. To which Ray says, "You're a complicated man, Joe." Okay. So then Joe goes in back to sulk, and Frank, the old waiter, comes in and says, "Hey, Joe, we got a problem. Your father-in-law wants to pay the check, and he's willing to give me a 30% tip." And Joe's like, "No, my father-in-law does not pay. My family does not pay at my restaurant." And Frank is still there when Grandpa comes in and is just like, "Come on, let's take a picture."
Oh,
And
yeah, let's take a picture. Do you have a sport coat? Again, sort of. So I can see how this might needle at somebody, right?
yes,
But it's not
but
like harmful.
it's not harmful. And basically, it's just that he's just like a snobby guy. It's like a Caddyshack. It's a light Caddyshack situation where, Joe's, a yuppie who he started working class, then he went yuppie, and now he's back working class, but still with yuppie sensibilities. Whereas Grandpa is where the yuppie wants to be. So it's very weird that
So there is like a competitive element
there's a
going on
competitive
between the two of
element,
them.
and there is a sort of vague, very vague classism subtext.
Yeah.
But it's super vague. Okay.
Because Grandpa's wearing a suit the whole time, right?
Yes.
Like, whatever.
Okay. But that was also 1993. Like, if you were over a certain age, the first show that would have had an old guy not being dressed up, I mean, I guess give me a break, but also like Roseanne, not like dressing for the occasion it took a while to get out of that mindset, right? Like, especially for television. So, because it lends an air of like immediate credibility in some ways. Like, you can afford to have suits in your costume department. So, again, this is why untucking shirts was such an important change to American culture around this era.
Yes.
It just changed the world. You have no idea. Okay, so then I just wanted to help out. Oh yeah, that's what it is. This is it's great that you had a restaurant to fall back on after getting fired.
Yeah, that was a little
I
bit.
didn't get fired. I got laid off. Whatever.
Yeah.
Times are tough. I just want to help out. He just wants to help out, says Frank with the 30% tip. To which Joe says, "Get out of here, Frank."
Frank could have just taken the money and not said anything, but then the plot would have gone nowhere, right?
Right. And as opposed to walking around in a circle and then going nowhere. Okay. Don't take it personally, Joe. It's like the VCR today. And then I'm just being a jerk. I should let you buy me this stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And then Grandpa's like, "Oh, that's it. Here it is. Now Sandy has to work." "Oh, well, I took that personally too." To which Grandpa says, "Do you have to raise your voice, ethnic Italian man?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that we are gonna do it. Do you have to raise your voice, you low class person?"
Yeah.
Of ethnic variety in your ethnic restaurant. I mean, like, we are. If this had been a free spirit subplot, the guy would have talking about how he couldn't handle the spice of Joe's lasagna or something. Like, he couldn't have until Chef Boyardee. We're so close here, folks. We're so close. If it were CBS, it might still be there. Okay. Well, fine. Just buy this, buy that, buy me a Ferrari. In comes Frank. There's been a glitch. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? The way he said it, I'm like, you poisoned the whole family with the wrong part of the squid. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Your credit card's been rejected, Grandpa. We'll run it through again. I did, and they told me if I ran it through twice, and then I called them, and they said if I cut this up and mail it to them, they'll give me $50. So I'm just back here for a stamp. Zoink.
Yeah. This is
Joe's
the
like,
most we've heard from the waiter in any one episode.
In any one episode, and
Yeah.
also he has not shit talking
his wife. Yeah.
his wife. Like this almost without all of the additional context for the waiter, in this context, he is totally fine.
Yeah.
Like he's fine. It's not good, but he's fine. It's not his none of this is his fault.
No.
Okay. So then he's looking for a stamp, and Joe's like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, come on, he's your father-in-law. I'll give you half. And then Joe's like, no, takes it, sends Frank out of there. Grandpa's like, well, I'll have my business manager send you a check.
Yes.
And then here's where we get a great just shit moment in the episode, just like incompetent storytelling, where Joe's like, it's no problem. To which Grandpa responds, I don't know what's worse, watching my business go under or watching you feel sorry for me that it did. And I'm like, your business went under? When did Joe find that out? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Also, how does Grandpa even know that Joe had to go back to slinging hash if he hasn't been in contact with anybody for 3 years? There's that.
Yeah.
So for the plot holes here. Okay. And also now is where we're going to get that Joe doesn't like Grandpa pretending to be Santa, but he's got to be Santa because Grandma is
getting remarried and they're going to have a new grandpa, and how are they going to know to love me still? So it's this, men can't handle their emotions, so they
by the affection of their grandchildren.
So they act out and then piss everybody off, and then
but it's
have to apologize
super
later.
duper fucking mild.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
There are no stakes here.
None.
Are you super broke, Grandpa? No, I just can't afford to, buy $1,200 worth of presents in 1993. No shit. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Don't worry though, because Sandy's mom and Hank sent fruit last year. So if you get Pez, you'll be ahead of them.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa's just sure Joe has been waiting for him to fail. There's a thing about how it was good he didn't take the job with Grandpa because he would have lasted at the company a few months longer, possibly, than when he got laid off before. And we would have somehow skipped the entire fucking show. Better universe. Okay, so then there's this slightly cute line because now the episode is actually about Joe and Grandpa bonding.
Yes.
Though they really can't because Joe doesn't have an honest relationship with anyone because he's just the annoying kid grown up. Like he's just grown up Scotty Jean. So he's just too much of a narcissist for this to matter. But Grandpa's like, well, I don't want you to I don't want to be an embarrassment to you. And Joe's like, you're family now. That's embarrassing enough.
Yeah.
Zoinks. Because my kids suck. Did you see the fucking rat tail? We then cut home where Joe is in the kitchen making lasagna. And I'm sorry, Emily, my brain immediately thought, is this the start of a Joe wants to learn how to improve his cooking to get a good review for Gennaro's subplot? I'm sorry I overthought it, because no, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's set dressing. The set dressing department had better story ideas than the writers.
Yes.
So Martin's in the other room with the kids saying goodbye. Sandy gets home at this point, which is why they were having lunch, because it's Grandpa's last day. I think realistically, after finding out that Grandpa was broke, they stayed another day, which also makes no sense because you're changing flights in 1993.
Yeah.
You're spending $2,000 changing those tickets in 93. Like, fuck that shit. But whatever. So Sandy gets home. Oh, good, I didn't miss Dad yet because I was at fucking work, not at the restaurant, going in a different car. Joe's like, all right, well, I didn't want him to disappoint the kids because that's our job. So I loaned him the money to buy the new VCR. So it's $400.
Yeah.
And Sandy's like, "You're so sweet and generous, Joe. I have a good owner now." Um, we go into the living room where they're watching old family VHS tapes, which makes very little sense, especially in the context of we're watching these irreplaceable tapes because it's 1993 on the VCR that eats tapes.
Yeah.
That could be a thing because what they're watching is Amy's fourth birthday party where she had Irish setter hair because her appearance is all that has value to her family as well. We are
And to
back in,
her. And
and
to
to
her.
her. And
Yeah.
let's not forget, but we are back in some nice free spirit territory here. We're in some good terror fear. Maybe Polly will sell her next episode. Um, Actually, Danny Masterson, probably not a funny joke. Okay, so do you realize Danny Masterson's probably like jealous of Jared Leto and those other guys who have the more legally consensual cults?
Ezra Miller and yeah.
Yeah, and what Keegan we were talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. Anna
Yeah,
Keegan.
it's just like that was what Danny Masterson wanted. He's like, "Come on, Ashton, let's just have a cult." And Ashton's like, "No, man." They're like,
I don't think he was interested in having a cult because he's already a member of one.
Oh, good point. Where's Shelley? Okay, moving on.
And human trafficking.
It's weird. It's weird how dumb and sick and gross and manipulative reality is, huh, folks?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where they go out. Yeah, so they go out, they're fucking around the VCR, and then this came off as shitty. So I feel like nobody was on the same page of how this was supposed to play. Grandpa's like, "Well, I know I said I was gonna get you a new VCR, kids, but your dad said no. So blame him for this shit." And I'm
Yeah.
just like, that's weird. That's like really kind of shitty, like the way they're doing this. I was like, this isn't a good setup because the setup is Joe's gonna like find the VCR from Grandpa and bring
Right.
it in or whatever. Like they're two men. We could have a whole episode about how they couldn't fucking find their way out of the vestibule at a department store and it would have won an Emmy in 1993. Okay.
Oh. Oh, when
So
was that episode of that other show that will remain unnamed where a bunch of men did get stuck in a department store? I'll keep talking. I'll look it up.
okay. So then Joe gets to decide when they get the new one because he is the patriarch. He is paterfamilias. And so then Grandpa gets hugs. This is where I noticed Scotty Jean's rat tail. Mom and
Yep, that's when
Joe
I noticed it too.
walk him out. And you get to be the hero now, Joe, is
Yeah.
what Grandpa says. And then, "Sandy, do you know you've got a good man here?" Aw. So then
Sandy said, "Yes, I do," and then snuggles up next to him
And
coquettishly.
then she and Grandpa play the staring game. Oh, yes, I didn't make it that far. Okay.
Oh, okay. It's funny, but
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, Emily. I'm sure it's fucking great. And I'm sure it hurts your soul a little. But who knows? Maybe he'll make a show in France someday. And, that's how that'll go. Okay. Sometime
problematic people. Problematic people are problematic.
I don't know. What are we going to do? A show just about the fucking, like, oh, what we could have had if men weren't pieces of shit, criminal, awful pieces of shit. Okay. Back to Joe's life.
Back to Joe's life.
Okay. So yeah, so then
Joe gets to be the hero.
Joe gets to be the hero. They play the staring
leaves.
game, except the staring game comes off weird. Mary Page Keller lacks certain affect.
I don't know if I like looked away for a second, but I just thought that they were having like a moment. I didn't realize
it was like a fucking. We could play the Curb music over it.
Yeah,
It was that. I don't know if we're doing that. Maybe we'll see how I feel in about 20 minutes. You'll find out if you're watching this on YouTube. So then Grandpa goes off. Isn't this fine? And then we go into the house where the kids have found the VCR. So
And
Joe
with the
didn't get to give
note
it
from
to them.
Grandpa.
Yes. Grandpa
So
was the hero.
his thunder gets stolen
Ho,
by his own
ho,
machinations,
ho.
however.
So if this were a Christmas episode, they would have gotten so much out of that setting, just
Mm-hmm.
so much. Because they could have just ripped off Christmas Vacation and worked in a whole like, because of the boom, Stan's doing a Christmas bonus, but then they've got a not, but it could just be a 2 hour fucking movie. Okay. Is the episode over yet? No, because
I almost turned it off. I did turn it off. And then I was like, oh wait, they always have this extended tag at the end.
yes, but not quite as bad this time. But we are back to whatever happened to rapist Danny Masterson. He is singing out in the restaurant
Yeah.
and driving away the customers.
They're wondering why, oh, well, they maybe just retracted the thing in the newspaper. I don't know why we don't have any customers, blah, blah, blah. And then waiter guy opens the door and you hear Danny Masterson singing terribly, presumably in the dining area.
Yep.
And that's why the customers are leaving or not coming or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was hoping that it was going to be a review in the newspaper of their restaurant that was terrible. And so people stopped coming.
That'd be so funny.
But, and I was thinking this before, like Barb just disappeared.
Oh, yeah. She was
I mean,
in
you
that
had
one
mentioned
scene.
it, but
She
it's like
wasn't-
she's in one scene. She had like 2 lines. Poof.
Did not get to be part of the decision to call the newspaper.
My theory is that if Sandy had Barb to talk to about her father, we would have gotten all of the details about why she hated her father.
Do you think they would have been really mundane things like just
I don't know. I don't know. There's no reason. Who am I to tell people how to feel? But like, if your biggest gripe is that your dad doesn't like your husband,
no, not even that. Because they don't even like, Joe refuses to even like have a conversation with him. So this is like the whole like, it's so hard for men to make friends. And it's just like, well, I mean, you gotta figure based on the age, any guy you're talking to, any white cis guy you're talking to, you probably don't want to know them. Like,
yeah, but I don't know. It's just
up.
there's just no reason. So I wanted more. I wanted more. I wanted there to be drama, but it's a sitcom. So alack and alas.
30 something was still on. You can go watch 30 something.
Nah.
Okay. Well, I'm just
Thank
saying.
you. Thank
I'm
you.
just saying.
I only watch funny. I only watch funny things and then whatever.
Why are we watching this?
And then
If
whatever
only
shit we watch
things.
on this.
Oh God. Okay. What's next?
Oh yes. Next up. Oh shit. I've got to get back to it because
You were looking up one of your great shames.
It's one of my only shames. Again, remember when one's guilty pleasures were just like things that you were embarrassed to watch, and now it's like things you shouldn't watch because people are bad and do bad things. So it is one of my guilty pleasures. The next episode is something about parental guidance. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Parental guidance not suggested question mark. Oh, Sandy and Peter. Peter go to the movies where they unexpectedly get to observe Amy with a date. They call him Peter.
They call him Peter
on IMDb.
Yeah.
So Sandy and Joe go to the movies and they unexpectedly see Amy on a date.
Do we think that was like Peter Honorati's agent's intern? Or do we think it was like Peter Honorati's older sister or something? Like, is this very proud aunt?
I have
perhaps?
No clue.
But yes, cool. I'm sure. Oh,
guest star.
Who?
Dream. James Marsden.
how did we unintentionally watch a show with someone who's still working and things we would possibly watch? You didn't watch Jury Duty, but it's
I didn't watch
awesome.
Jury Duty,
It's
but
so good.
I've heard it's really good.
He's so good. Like
Yeah.
his in Dead to Me, that Netflix show, he's so good. Like he's really gotten good in this like period of his life.
Good. I'm so thrilled. I'm thrilled to see him on as a
Yep.
young person on this, presumably as Amy's date.
Presumably.
He's so handsome. I'm so glad. This is going to be great.
Oh, well, that's why we pick the shows we do. I mean, you've had the Peter Onorati and now James Marsden. Last time you had Uncle Gustav and Geordie. Like, it's just been a veritable, a movable feast of beefcake for you on this show.
Embracing the dirty old lady phase of my life.
What hell of a choice with it. I mean, this is like, you went downhill from Chuck, is all I'm saying. You went downhill from Chuck.
Oh, anyway. Well, I'm looking forward to watching James Marsden get his 2 lines, and come in, the last 5 minutes of the episode or whatever.
Oh God, is it going to be one of those episodes where they spend the whole episode getting ready to go to the movie? And then
what movie they're going to go see?
It's not.
You think it's going to be a real one? Oh,
no,
okay.
No chance. They may mention. Ooh, will they even mention the existence of real movies?
I don't know. We'll find out.
The mysteries.
Join us next week, folks, where we find out if they reference movies that exist in the real world, and we get to see James Marsden at the beginning of his acting career. And we get to watch and enjoy more of Joe's life and see how Joe reacts when he sees his daughter out with a handsome young man try to reclaim his property.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to let us just go out on a high point. I was going to say, and where will we find all of this adventure? We'll find it in television land. But no, yes, let's talk about how Joe's going to stop the movie for everybody in the theater to scream about how she's a whore or something. Yes, let's do it. I can't wait.
I might need to edit out you saying that word. That's a bad word. How dare you? Even in jest. I won't edit it out. I don't really.
Wow, and then you're going to leave this part in. Now you're going to leave this part in, and now we've got this uncomfortable conclusion.
I've been called worse. I say that at work all the time. Parents really think that's funny when I say that.
Or just all the time.
No, I've been called worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People love it when I use the word whore in a professional setting. Yes. People.
Why are your kids whoring around over there? Your 2 little boy whores in the bathroom need to hurry the fuck up.
Okay. Well, that's a high note. Okay. So join us next week when we watch episode 9. 9. We're almost done of Joe's life. Andrew, see you in television land.
See you in television land, Emily.
Hey, you made it to the end of this episode of Onesies. Congratulations. Just finishing up editing here, and I realized I never cut in the correct pronunciation of Sinead O'Connor's Muslim name, and I decided not to do that because she was still publicly known as Sinead O'Connor as a performer, and to be honest, I haven't been able to find a pronunciation of her Muslim name, and I would rather not botch it and instead just leave it at Sinead O'Connor. Anyway, RIP to a real one.